Welcome to the Genesis. This is the second part of my conversation with Dana Lynn Lewis. As I said last time, we began to record, and then there was just so much to talk about and so much that I wanted to explore that we decided to turn it into two distinct episodes. So in this conversation, we talk about how art can be political, even when it isn't issuing explicit slogans, even when it is not explicitly political. In a culture that underfunds artists and treats art as decor or commerce, just insisting that creative work matters is political. We also get into the difference between message-forward political art and art that opens a kind of capacious vessel, inviting people to express through their shared humanity without hammering them with ideological slogans or ideas. A centerpiece of that conversation is Dana's participatory project, Clearing. Hundreds of tiny anonymous envelopes that people filled out with whatever they wanted to clear in their own lives, sent from around the world, and then ritually burned unopened. And if you listen to this podcast, that might sound a little bit like Cara Levine's work that we discussed in the episode that I recorded with her and released a couple of weeks ago. And Dana and I talk about that as well. We also discuss witchy, earth-based spirituality and her love of daily contemplative walks and paying attention to rivers, trees, and wind as part of who she is, her creative process. And we talk about the moment that a tree told her to buy a house. That is true. We connect that to her creativity, to the feeling of being small in the face of the gorge and the river's deep time. We talk about the trickster energy of making community in public. Dana Lynn Lewis is truly one of a kind, and I hope you enjoy this concluding part of our conversation. Thanks so much for listening. Do you think that art has a political agenda? Does art have a responsibility, maybe? Or does art exist in some other realm? And I'm asking you to think about that, not in terms of your own creation and the own ecology of your art in galleries, but also your work with Gather, Make, Shelter.
I think that in some ways, unfortunately so, because of how little value nationally is placed on art and artists. There's definitely value for people to want nice pictures in their homes and things like that. But a lot of people don't support art making and the artists who need to make a living to do what they do. And so it's a political action by nature to just say, I think that what I have to bring to the world is important. I believe that what I'm making is important and relevant in the world in many ways. And it's not just about hanging a pretty picture on the wall. It's about a lot of things. But that being said, I'm not shatting on the people that make the pretty picture to go on the wall, because I also think that like having beauty and connection to humanity that can channel things that other people can't see, bring them to the world is part of what's going to save us.
Yeah, no, I do. I think that in that second point, my take is that this is where I think art and, I don't know, religion has such a bad name. Art and a transcendent orientation merge, because they're both inherently radical in a world that's structured around power and commerce.
Yes.
Even if you're not explicitly challenging the system, but you're just placing something in the area of beauty and transcendence, it is inherently radical. But I guess I'm also asking you about like explicitly political art. Do you think that there's a time and that this is one for art to be explicitly political, or is that not necessary?
I wake up every day and think about how I can put more love into the world. Mm-hmm. Is that political? I don't think it's political. I think it's like normal. And I think that do I have an agenda? Yes, I have an agenda. Is it about, it's about love, and it's about bringing more love into the world and having more people find connections with each other. Yes. And everything I do is based in that. And it's the Gather, Make, Shelter piece. It's my studio work. It's my public art. It's the rituals in which I come together to channel and find spirit to help me figure out what it is that I can bring into the world right now. I have this very dear friend who is an organizer and has been on the ground in many countries doing radical political work. And they constantly remind me that they think that Gather Make Shelter is one of the most radical acts that they've seen. And I just feel it's sad to think that art has to be like, I don't know, radicalized. Is that a word?
Yeah, it is a word. Yeah.
You know, that people think that's radical to put a big peace sign outside my house because in the midst of all this like mega trucks going by, that's a radical act. And that's a weird.
It is. Yeah.
This is strange. So I have these different bumper stickers on the back of my car. And I came out of Sheridan's one day and somebody took black spray paint and sprayed out my peace sign.
I think that beautifully makes your point, because that it wasn't even a word. It's a graphic. It's a work of art in a sense. I don't know where, I don't even know who designed that, but it is to some people an offensive. It is inherently political, even though it seems like who could argue with that? That's really something.
And these kind of things, I feel like I also want to lean into humor.
Yes. Yeah.
And how we can find humor in this. And and I feel like that with several of the people who I don't want to mention their names because I don't want to give them that kind of power. But sometimes when I'm just so mad and so frustrated at the powers that are in office right now, that I just start laughing.
Yeah.
Like, poor little naked creature who has no other idea other than how to be mean and evil. Like, I feel so sorry for your soul.
One of the things that I struggled with is that as a rabbi, as a congregational rabbi, is that while my Abba, my father of blessed memory, was explicitly political and always on the side of the angels, and I loved him and admired him for that, my Torah teaching was rarely explicitly political. Politics interests me, as you can tell. I care a lot. But in terms of my Jewish rabbinic voice, it never went in that direction. And I think that's connected to the fact, and here's where I'm trying to bring it around, that I tend to not gravitate towards explicitly political art, because it feels like usually there's not a lot to say about it beyond the point it's making, and it doesn't. To me, it's not capacious enough to allow like years of pondering, and so that's really where my question is coming from: is whether you have ever had to wrestle with that question of how explicit or not explicit to make art.
Here's a funny one. I did this project, which is actually turned into something that I do periodically, and I'm doing another session of it coming up in 2027, which was called Clearing. And I launched the project at a show at Lewis and Clark in 2014. And I gave all these different little envelopes to people that they're small, tiny little envelopes that I stamped the word clearing on. And I attached a piece of mica to it, which you could see the word clearing through. And then I put a little piece of paper inside of it. And I thought I would go to a bunch of coffee hours or happy hours and give them to people. Like, is there anything you want to clear? And then I'd get a mass of these things together and it would be part of my exhibit at Lewis and Clark.
Whoa.
So it gave people these envelopes and asked them if there's anything they'd like to clear. You have a health issue that's going on. Your ex-partner or husband is this and that. You can't get rid of it. You can't sell your house. Whatever it is that you want to, world peace. You can't stand how people are treating each other. Whatever it is. I didn't give a lot of direction to it. But the word clearing in the little envelope set people on fire. And so it went viral and it went all over the world. And people were saying, I'm going to do some work with these women in Afghanistan. Can you send me 25? I'm going to do this turtle recovery program in Mexico. Can you send me some? Now, I have a map that has all the little points of all the countries and places it came from. And literally 1,000 came in. It was just close to 1,000. Hundreds came in. And in the end, my idea was that I'm going to burn them. And I can send you a photo of this because I can see what that looks like. I'm going to burn them in this big bowl, and that all the collective things and I never opened them. So all the collective things that people wanted to clear were burned away, but mica doesn't burn. So all these little circles still exist, all the collective things that people wanted to burn, but the little circles represent each person who wrote one. And I have them in a glass jar. And people, now the other thing that happened was that I was working on the Orange Line. I have a public art station on the Orange Line. And I was trying to find someplace, a glass manufacturing company to work with. And the one that came in that I had to work with, which also coincided with an invitation from a glass company in Munich for a residency, was in Germany. And when I realized, and since I was little, I was
Wow.
like, don't go to Germany, don't buy German products.
Interesting.
And I didn't realize, excuse me, I have a lagging cough, but I didn't realize, I mean, that how like racist I've been around that. It was like, oh shit, I want to go to Italy. I don't want to go to Germany. Can I find a
Yeah,
place in Italy?
I inherited that too. Yeah.
All this stuff. Perfect opportunity for me to pocket a bunch of clearings and sit in the middle of Dachau camp and write my clearings.
Wow. In the category of funny, not funny, I remember when I was growing up, my father, whenever he would see a Volkswagen ad for a Volkswagen car, he would like deliberately say it's actually called Volkswagen. And he would say it, he wasn't trying to be funny. He was just like, it called up all of that for him.
Yeah.
Tell me more. First of all, I have to say, do you know the artist Carl Levine, who was just on this podcast and is currently exhibiting at the Oregon Jewish Museum? Mm-hmm. I'll just say it overlaps a lot with that from an idea basis. She has people articulate their grief in sand. There's like a little pile of sand, and it's a personal grief, and it becomes very public, but it's also it doesn't remain around for long.
So I was considering this clearing project, and also the whole show was called Clearing. This is one aspect of it. And then I've done it since in a couple different locations, and you're going to start seeing the envelopes again, because there's going to be another burning towards the end of a project that I'm doing next spring in 2027. So I'm going to start distributing the envelopes, and I'll need help doing that. So I'll get that out to you. But I remember when I was thinking about this, and I called this friend of mine, very dear friend of mine, who's like my art soul making, buddy. And we've been friends forever. And I said, oh my God, Philip, I'm kind of anxious because I'm going to come out as this real, like this, my work is very feminine and it deals with feminine issues, and now this is very political leaning act. And, I feel a little anxious about coming out and doing this. And he said, this isn't the first show. This isn't the last show you've ever had. And you just really need to be you. And so full force, that whole show was all about clearing and cleaning and the world and the environment and the soul and everything. And then all these people participated in that. And and it just also kind of like set me going on, it solidified my continuation of this path. Have faith in yourself. And it made sense. The stamps, they were all anonymous because I never opened anybody's envelopes, but they came from Thailand and Poland and Afghanistan and like all over the place.
What's also interesting is that the project Clearing, as you're describing this incredible idea, what a great idea, it's not explicitly political, but you invited people, I'm sure, to talk about very specific things, but you're not hitting anybody over the head ideologically, you're opening it. And that to me is very compelling. Why was it important to you that this stuff be impermanent?
I think that it's the ritual of burning something and like letting go of these things that are writing it down, but and also giving it up to the universe to take care of. So like it's ashes to ashes thing, but that also honoring it because the little circles still exist.
Yeah.
The literal intention. So I guess it's partially, I think some of this stuff that you were expressing might be not as interesting to you as far as political art, might be strong messaging. And there are a lot of like strong messaging in those envelopes that I'll never know what they said. But the strong message was felt and honored, and it disappeared in the burning. But the individual was honored and lives on in these little glass jars that contain these circles.
You are not telling people what your own work means in an explicit way. You're actually doing the opposite. You're opening the vessel. Are you a spiritual person, self-defined, maybe woo-woo or whatever?
Yeah, I'm a witch.
Are you a witch? Tell me.
I'm not saying I'm Wiccan or anything, but I'm just saying, and I'm not a certified witch in that way. Yes, I'm a spiritual person.
I'm not a witch, but I play one on TV. Yeah.
I'm very connected to I feel very connected to the spiritual world once I gave myself permission to be. It can be. I feel very connected to spirit, and it often for me is reflected in back. It's nature. Nature is like a physical. The physical manifestation of spirit for me is nature.
I'm curious, what does that look like? Do you have practices, or it just means you just feel connected to the world in some way that feels transcendent?
I do have practices. I spend a lot of time in nature, and the reason that I live where I live is because there's a certain tree on the property that told me I needed to be here. It's this big redwood and said, "Get this."
Can we wait? Can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. Her name's Esmeralda.
And so tell me about that moment of encountering Esmer. It sounds like this was not a shocking thing to you. This kind of thing is, walk me through, if you would, like what happens. You're driving down the street and you see this tree and
I was actually I looked at all these different houses. I was going through a transition in my life and needed and wanted to move. And I had looked at it was a horrible time. It was when Portland was really going crazy. I looked at 85 houses and it was awful. Yeah.
that's so to me, that's a description of a nightmare. That sounds like a nightmare to
It
me.
was a nightmare. And then I bid on 9 of them and didn't get them. And then I had a certain deadline where I had to meet for the financial world to believe in me so that I could buy this house. And 2 days before that deadline, it was like if I didn't get locked in before April 15th, I wasn't going to get a loan.
Okay.
But I was also like not just going to take anything. And 2 days before April 15th, I walked into this house and the house was whatever. It's a nice house, but whatever. It wasn't the house. And there was a beaming light through the house to the backyard and just drew me directly to this giant redwood. It was just taking my heart and pulling it right to the redwood.
Wow.
And then I just put my arms around her and said, "Okay, I get it. This is my house."
Yeah.
I didn't know too if I'd get it because I was getting outbid over so many houses.
And nothing that didn't happen in the other houses. So this really spoke to you. And
Yeah.
the name, tell me about Esmeralda. Where did that come from?
Oh, I don't know. It wasn't like I read
It was
it
right.
or thought about it or any. I just was like, "You're Esmeralda." I don't know why. I don't know any
Right.
Esmeraldas. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so good. I'm not cut from that cloth. I sometimes wish that I were more like that. It's very, very once in a while, under certain conditions I can, but I'm generally not inclined to that way of being in the world. And I love hearing about it because I think it's really some of my artists who I've been influenced by or who I love are very much like that, but I don't really have much of that in me.
I think it manifests itself in different ways for different people's and their spiritual practice. You are what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm happy with. I'm happy with
for
it.
sure. It's just a different kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a different.
I think I told you maybe in the last time we talked or earlier when we were talking about driving down the Esplanade and with the bike mechanic.
Yes.
And then getting out of that village or little place where people were living, the camp they call it at the time. Yeah. And just the walk between the steel bridge and my studio on Front Avenue, it just clarified to me, like, I need to be doing this thing and I need to figure out, I don't know what shape it is, but the cloud in a good way was like around me hovering and kind of pulsing, like, figure out what this is because there's something.
Right. You almost felt that energetically.
Yeah.
You felt like this is an important moment.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't think that consciously in the moment, but the point is this was like Moses at the burning bush kind of thing. At the risk of overstating it.
Universe helping tell me where to go.
I love that. Does that kind of openness and that kind of energetic openness to intuitive experience, is that an important part of your creative work? Do you see that as essential to you as an artist?
Totally. Yeah.
Can you say more about that?
I just feel like it's just been my whole life kind of thing. that there wasn't always a lot of support in my life in some very basic ways. And I asked universe to help me and
Yeah.
to help guide me and help me figure out what path to take along the way. And
Yeah.
I feel like definitely it's in my studio work. I also feel you asked me about practices. I take a walk every morning and it's at least 3 miles and it doesn't matter how long it is, but it's a time of contemplative like walking. And
Yeah.
I don't really have an agenda. I start off with a lot of crabby feelings that I've woken
Yeah.
up worrying about something,
Yes. Yeah.
and then things just the layers peel off and that kind of just it helps set my day. I don't do that. The day's not as easy for me,
Yeah. So you're
And then
not one of these,
sorry.
you- you're not one of these like headband and podcast walkers with a coffee cup. Like you're out there. This is a deliberately
Yeah.
contemplative.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I live close to the river, so I usually touch base with the river every morning to some extent, and just the trees and the wind. And this morning was very cold, and just sometimes it's like it's freaking raining out, but I just put it together and get out there, and then it just clears me. Yeah, yeah.
I was just teaching a class. I have a website through which I offer classes and stuff to
Oh,
people. And I was
nice.
just teaching a class on prayer, on Jewish prayer.
Yeah.
And I was talking about the foundations of Jewish prayer. And the very first foundational level, if you look through the Torah, it almost sounds ridiculous to say because it's obvious because it was an ancient society, but it's people encountering what they perceive to be as the transcendent in nature.
Mm.
And Jews have become so far removed from that. I'm just going to get up on my milk crate for a second.
Yeah.
Oops, because we associate prayer with being indoors and all of that stuff, which is very beautiful. I love that form of Jewish prayer. But Jewish people generally have become very, very distanced from something that feels intuitively important to you. And I think to many people, which is engaging the outdoors, engaging the universe in an open way has to be part of our practice. But I think many of us have lost that. But tell me,
That I think is relevant is summer camp. So there's all these Jewish summer camps all over the country.
So true.
And for me, like I remember my dad had a gas station and there was an oil embargo one year, and which there was a lot of stuff, but he had
That's
made
probably
some money,
1978.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, does anybody want to go to summer camp? Because we could do that this year. And my siblings weren't interested. And I was just like, yes. And
Yeah.
we were living in a very rough part of Milwaukee and not a lot of easy nature. We were 70 blocks from Lake Michigan. It wasn't part of my daily routine. And so I went to summer camp for 1 year and then I just was like, oh, and that was like so amazing because like you say, it's like everything you're living outside, you're eating in and outside, there's activities and prayer, all kinds of things happening with nature. And that was so.
Was it a Jewish camp? Well, you mentioned prayer.
Yeah.
What was the camp? Do you remember?
Interlaken in Wisconsin. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then I proceeded to work via day camps, CIT, being in charge of the teen village for 8 years. Did that work in between school and stuff just to be in nature.
Yeah.
And
that was the key for you.
When I got the gig coming out here, sight unseen, I got the gig to be a resident at Oregon College of Art and Craft, and I loaded up my little Honda Civic and I drove cross country. When I hit the sign in the gorge, it's milepost 24 or something like that, and it says 24 miles or 20, whatever, close to Portland. I literally just burst into tears. And I was like, life is going to be more like summer camp. Like this.
Wow. Because you're in the gorge and it's stunning and gosh, what a gift we have.
And back to the gorge for a minute, as I've been here a long time. And as I've been getting older, I just don't think about my age very much. And when I turned 60 a couple years ago, I was driving through the gorge and I'm very familiar with this place burned away. I know what it looked like before. This mountains, this bend in the road is that. And I'm thinking about these things. And all of a sudden I was like, this river's been rushing for thousands of years
Oh,
before I
yeah.
got here, and
Yeah,
it's gonna be rushing thousands of years
that's right.
for
Yeah.
after I leave, and I am so small, and I love
Yeah.
that. I
Sometimes it's just nice to be outside because it feels nice and things are pretty. But when you have time to open yourself to it, it's exactly that. It's this, whether you're looking at the stars or just an ancient redwood. Yeah,
yeah.
it just gives us an ability to perceive with a little more clarity where we stand in the universe. So wait, let me ask you this. So yeah, the summer camp is a Jewish summer camp or whatever kind of summer camp it is. Like you don't hear Jewish kids saying, "Oh my God, did you go to religious school too? Wasn't it awesome?" But
Yeah,
there's
no,
many,
right.
many of them will say, summer camp is a huge part of my kids'
Yeah.
experience, and many, many kids love it. And I think the outdoors part is, especially for city kids, it's a big, big opening. So wait, going back into your witchy earth-based spirituality, help me understand how that informs you as a creator, as an artist.
I think I laid it out. It's spending just, I guess there's a lot, you have to trust yourself to move in these directions that aren't
Yeah.
supported. They're not really supported. So many countries support their artists and value art in ways that ours doesn't. So I'm not saying I've never been supported, but I'm just saying that it's harder in this country
Yeah.
to say I'm going to be a this. And if people say, "What do you do?" I'm like, I make things. I don't know. Like capital A artist. I don't know what that means really, but I just was born this way. I have always been a maker and a seeker. And I think that it hasn't been something that because I studied art, I became this. It's just like, and I think that hand in hand with like me trusting the universe to take care of me and lead me to where I need to go, it also is in my studio.
Yeah.
So, well, they're not separate. They're all the same.
Yeah.
I
I
think
do love that.
And I think too, like with Gather Make Shelter, something that I feel like we're a band of coyotes and we're tricksters. And I
Mhm.
think that we tickle people into believing things that are unimaginable. And we tickle people into being together in ways that they wouldn't have considered before.
What's unimaginable? Help me understand that.
That a band of this case in point, this last thing that we did on the park blocks, we had this beautiful, buoyant, amazing, really high-end fashion show in the middle
Right.
of park blocks. When the
Right.
Oregon Symphony asked us if they would work
I
with
see.
us, we didn't
I
reach out to them.
Yeah.
And
Right.
all of a sudden, people who are walking by are like, "What's this?" And everything was free. And all these people came and sat
Yeah.
down and thought, "Oh, this is fantastic. What is this?" And they have no idea. And some people walked away and still didn't know that the people that were walking by them
Yeah.
were going to crawl into a truck that night and go to bed.
I understand.
Or were housing
Yeah.
insecure. But they just everybody saw this magical thing happening that they could be part of and they wanted it. So it's like this kind of thing. We have these events all the time, openings or gatherings. People come to them from all different walks of life for all different reasons, some known, some unknown, because they just happen to be walking by the Pearl District storefront or someplace in the park where we're doing something. And people don't say, "Are you housed or unhoused?" They're like, "Why are you here? What did you work on this project?" And
Mhm.
people meet each other at the base level of humanity and their creativity and their ability and interest in seeking and being engaged in the wonderment of it all.
So there's a weirdness to projects that might emerge that are unconventional. Maybe that's the more polite term,
Yeah.
unconventional, that people might not imagine, but because there's an openness to the way you and your community is working together,
Yes.
it creates all kinds of wild possibilities that people hadn't imagined were possible before. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, for example, we've been touring our artists all over the state and they've been speaking and having exhibitions. And we have one up right now at the Beaverton Library. And the library has asked us to come and do a talk. And four of our artists are going to be speaking there on Sunday alongside myself and Time, who is our studio and special projects manager. And And all these people are going to come to the library. Maybe they know a little bit about it. Maybe they've read a little bit about it. Maybe they just will happen to be in the library, and they're going to be listening to poetry and stories and maybe some songs we don't know from people that they don't know and might not even have any idea based on when they enter whether these people are how different they might be from them. They're just going to be listening to them because they're curious.
What's coming up for me, and I'm not putting you in this box, but it's just resonating with my experience and with this experience I know that Shoshana has had in creating projects like CoLab and Art Lab.
Yeah.
There's so many people whose experience of Jewish connection growing up was something that didn't necessarily allow for weirdness, or it didn't steered them towards a known course. Like, this is what it looks like to be Jewish. These are Jewish texts. This is where you do Jewish in this building. These are the extant committees that you can join. And I think that one of the beautiful things in what's happening in what people call the Jewish cultural renaissance, that some people say has been happening over the last couple of decades, with just a blossoming of projects like Art Lab, CoLab, and things across the country that are is that they're opening people to connect their Jewish experience to as of yet undefined ways and modes of expression. And I just think that it taps into something that's fundamental that animates you. My perception, based on the two conversations we've had, is that your Jewish identity was important to you, and is important to you growing up, but that your spirituality is in your mind not necessarily linked to Yiddishkeit or Judaism. Is that accurate?
I just weave the life together that I've woven, and I'm constantly, the pieces that have informed it, they're not necessarily separate. And they're also not necessarily, I am crediting Judaism for this or crediting some organized.
You're not holding these labels and categories. You're just moving through whatever you move through, and that's part of you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was a very rabbi question. It was not a very artist.
It's okay. It's okay. And I think it's so interesting because similar to just like the web that I've woven in my life and the way that I talked about it, I didn't have to seek out Jewish people ever in my life. They just showed up. So it wasn't like an organized. When I was younger, I went to temple, I was bat mitzvah, there was BBYO, there was some Jewish summer camp. But I didn't attend a lot of, like, I came to Portland. I didn't seek out a shul. And it was like, I met the Uncluses and I met Ann Robert Sachs, and through just the things that I did in my life. So those were like my Jewish people. But it's interesting because, like, tonight I'm hosting Shabbat at my house, and they're not all Jews that come to Shabbat. And this is group of people who for years have been getting together on Fridays, and every Friday is the Shabbat. And so tonight's I have space. Then I decided I can do this. Let's do this tonight. And people sometimes call it out at the last minute and stuff like that.
I understand.
It's interesting because, like, people come into my life. Like, one of the people in your current CoLab group, I think it's the CoLab, is Brenda Bingham.
And no, it's the current Art Lab cohort.
Art Lab. And so and Brenda, we just had a talk with her yesterday. It's her 1-year anniversary working with Gather Make Shelter. And we I don't know what it is, but we just have there's like a little thing because absolutely. And so I feel like the social nature of the Jewish connections in my life. Yeah, it's crazy. So like this afternoon, Judy Margulis just joined our team, which is wild.
Let me just say, for people who don't know, Judy, the folks you've mentioned, Ann Robert Sachs, and the Uncle's family, these are wonderful folks in the Jewish community. Judy Margulis was the head of the Oregon Jewish Museum and Center for Holocaust Education, and a fabulous personality.
Yeah. And Judy applied for this job that we have. And I'm like, what's up, Judy? And she's retired, and she's a wisdom keeper. She's amazing. And she's a very incredible human. And when this point in her life and what she wants to put energy into, she wants to spend some time helping us out. So
that's incredible.
I'm having coffee with her like in an hour.
Did you hire her?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, how wonderful. Oh
I know. Isn't
God.
that crazy? I
I
know.
hope that we're first to break the news, but that's so great. Yeah, I don't have enough, excuse me, I have too many good things to say about her.
Yeah, we put it on our newsletter. It's formal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, great. Okay, great. And
Yeah.
she's also just a hell of a lot of fun aside from all of
She's
her.
great. And then
So,
also, so it's interesting is Brenda, who moved here recently from elsewhere and has been collecting organically her Jewish community and is part
yeah.
of your art lab now, which
Yep.
she's so excited about. And she also told me she's listened to your podcast. So she was really thought that was cool that you and I were doing this together.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
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 And
Well,
then so it's and Brenda will be here tonight for Shabbat. And Judy, I'm having coffee with to talk about what we're
so
doing.
great.
And all these things where it didn't organically naturally just it is organically naturally just part of my life, how things happen.
Yeah, I get it. Beautiful. You bring beauty into the Portland community and into your
Oh, thank
Jewish
you.
community and into the world through your work. And I love hearing about it. By the way, this is a weird question. When was your bat mitzvah?
Oh, okay. So I'm 62. So when was my bat mitzvah?
Well, I'm more interested in what season, what time of year.
Oh, it was summer, like May, I think. And
I
what
was
about
thinking,
what about that?
wouldn't it be interesting if it were April 13th or something like that?
Tell
Because
me
that was
about.
the day when you met Esmeralda.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I should find
Anyway,
out. I should
yeah,
find
check it
out.
out.
Yeah, I should find
Track it
out
down.
and see. That's interesting.
Listen, I always like to close with these two questions. And I wish I end up saying this a lot because it's always true. But in particular with this conversation, you and I need like another 2 hours. But I've been
Yeah.
grateful for the time you've given.
Well, we should get
Learned
together.
so much about you and your work, and it's beautiful. You're such an important part of the Portland community. So I'm grateful to you. But here's my last two questions are always, what's one thing that you love that you want people to know about? It can be anything that you want to share with people. And then the second question is, what's the best Jewish food?
Oh, whitefish salad is my favorite thing.
Yes.
Whitefish on a bagel with pickled onions. Yeah.
I'm literally salivating, which is gross to say, but I love whitefish.
I just love it. I love it.
So that's the best food. It's hard to disagree. And then what's one thing you love that you want to share? It can be absolutely anything.
I just love humanity and I believe in humanity. And I just encourage people to just be open. I know that's not a thing, but
It's a thing. That's a thing.
okay.
That's a thing. I love it. Thank you. I hope to see you in 3 dimensions soon. In the meantime, I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Appreciate the time you've made. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your questions and chatting with you. And sorry about how complicated it was to get together.
Not at all. It's all good. Take care. See you soon.